So tonight is our main speaker meeting. Nikki in from North Carolina will be sharing her story, and Ed will be introducing her.
Well, yeah.
Thanks, FUACNA. Sean's going to be introducing me. We'll just go around the room introducing each other. Give Nikki about 3 minutes to tell her story.
Yeah, please.
My name's Ed. I'm an addict. So when we got asked to speak, I took the opportunity to jump in first and say I'll be Friday night speaker instead of Saturday night speaker, take the pressure off of me. And so when Ronnie found out, he was telling somebody, and he was like, yeah, Ed's going to speak on Friday night, and then Saturday night, Nikki's going to have her rebuttal to whatever Ed shared. So that might be what you get. But seriously, I was thinking, like, what's a word that comes to mind when I think of Nikki, which is something that we kind of used to do in Jackson, Mississippi, whenever somebody pick up a medallion and go around the room and share. And Nikki would always think of one word to describe someone, her sort of thoughts and experiences with that person. And for me, the word honor came up, or honorable. And because she honors the opportunities that she gets in life, whether that's professionally, personally, with family, friends, mission work, whatever she's doing. She's given all these opportunities, and most, if not all of those opportunities have come as a result of recovery. And it's amazing for me to see her continue to honor that. And part of that is like, I think that can be attributed to her vigilance for her recovery. And you would think that being as clean as long as she has, that, well, she's had ample opportunity to think that she's arrived and doesn't really need to do all the things that she needs to do, that she does do with her recovery. And, I don't know, I can't say that I've always been as vigilant and dedicated in that regard as she has. But it's certainly inspired me to, achieve whatever I have achieved in my own personal recovery. Just watching her, and that goes before we even started dating and got married. So what's it been? Over 17 years now. We started dating. And I was thinking how seriously she takes recovery, and I say that like you're going to laugh a lot with her if you hang out with her very long. But just how so. I don't know how long I had clean, maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months. Sort of like men with the men and women with the women. So if I was not showing up to meetings for a few days, I might have one or two guys call and check up on me. And one day I get a call, and Nikki L's number, Nikki N now, but Nikki L's number came up on my phone. And I had been to meetings in like a week, maybe, I don't know, sometime, it's week and a half or so. And it was her calling to check on me. And that was the first female that had called me, well, to check on me legit, right? and that moved me, because I'm like, this is more than just it's the lines between men and women here are superseded by the fellowship and the unity and looking out for each other and being each other's eyes and ears. And instead of asking everyone else what's going on with Ed or gossip. Well, she probably gossiped about me, but at least she called me, right? and that's one thing that I value about her. And I hear her talking to her sponsees about that. It's like, well, did you talk to them? Like, are you going to just complain about it? Are you going to try to get into the solution? Are you going to communicate with the person? And if you are, she's going to help you communicate, figure out how to communicate or manage whatever conflict is going on with whoever she's working with, But again, that word honor just comes up, and that's been most evident in our marriage. And I think that's me personally, it's the most beautiful thing, experiences that I've seen with her, spiritual principle that really sticks out to me, that she embodies more than any other, in my opinion. And other than that, I'm looking forward to hearing your story for the 749th time. But, Nikki.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Nikki, I'm an addict. And a couple of firsts this weekend. I've I've never been to a Narcotics Anonymous convention at a country club, so kudos to you guys. You're moving up. I've never stayed in a hotel at a convention that had a fireplace. Holy shit, can't hide money. I've also never had the privilege of having arms on a chair in a convention. Right. So, I mean, you know, and I say all that in jest, really, but congratulations to the convention committee, because I was on a convention committee in 2005 when Katrina hit, and we lost our hotel. It wasn't a thing anymore, you know, and the scramble that happens when those plans change at the last minute, and a bunch of addicts have to try to work together to figure out and make a new plan real fast, and it's probably not perfect, and you know, so a lot of tension about all that. So kudos to you guys, because I haven't felt that. I didn't feel that way when they reached out and was like, yeah, call this guy, say this, and you know, we think it's going to be okay, and you know, so just appreciate you guys for asking, for thinking enough of me and Ed. That's another first. Never, you know, spoke with Ed at a convention, so a wild bunch of firsts for me anyway. So I'm super grateful for you guys. I would say that I've been coming to this convention for a long time, but not very many times, right? But I always feel at home here. Everybody's super welcoming, and a couple times over the weekend, people come up and like, I don't know you. Who are you? You know, and it's like, you know, get weird with me. I really appreciate that, you know, because that's hard to do, you know, and it's easy to like talk to the people that you know and like play with the people that you know. And there are people who, you know, just because you have a bunch of clean time don't mean you're not scared to be here, you know. So thank you guys for that. But it's been a real weepy weekend for me, so you know, buckle up. But you know, the last time I did this was 2019 in New Orleans, and Jerry introduced me. And he said, Nikki is my favorite person. And I'm going to talk more about Jerry later for those of you who don't know him. But, you know, what a gift. What a gift to find somebody in this program that I was the most important person for. I feel like really weepy about that all weekend. I'm like, everything's worked great. Everything, I'm having so much fun. I'm like, you know, go to, you know, somebody's yoga class they're teaching, and like every time I'm still on that mat, I'm just like present and sad. And sad. Jerry took up a lot of space very quietly, like a little mountain, you know. And when he was gone, it was like an instant empty space for me, you know. But I'm not gonna not honor the joy that he brought to my life by not talking about him, even though it makes me look like shit. So so Jerry introduced me, and you know, we just had a really beautiful weekend, and I was just kind of reflecting on that. Any of you who heard that, don't expect that. Lower your expectations. That was a hype weekend. I don't know. I was really hitting on all cylinders then. So sorry, that ship has sailed. You will not get that Nikki tonight. But you know what I would say, you know, I think identification is important. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And what it was like was, you know, just a super dysfunctional. That's what I love about times with speakers, because you get some depth to understand. Like when you just get a share, it's like such a small, it's like, you know, hopefully 4 minutes, unless you're people who talk a lot, maybe you get 7. You're like, oh, wish you would shut up. I can't even hear what you're saying anymore. But, you know, it's just such a snippet, right? And it just really doesn't give you like an inside track of like, why did they say that? And what does that mean? And so that's what I like about, you know, speaker meetings. And I'm also really nosy, so I want to know all the things, like tell me all that. Because I think, you know, I want to know where I fit into all that. Like, how weird am I? You know, is there anybody else like me? And so I was raised by a woman who was well on her way to being an addict by the time I was born. And she made a lot of mistakes in that regard. And, you know, I didn't have the normal family that Ed shared about. I got that back with him. Well, they're not normal, really. But, you know, just a family that I didn't have. When I got here, I was really an orphan. You know, my mom was still alive, but she was deep and active addiction, and not a grandmother to my kids, and certainly not a mom to me. And in fact, the first time I ever used was with her, because she didn't really know how to be a parent. She knew how to try to be my friend, and she bought me alcohol. And I would say about my using, I think I was probably about 13 then, super manageable, for real. Like, that's no denial. I was very manageable. My drug of choice was approval. And so as a child, things were very unsteady, very unsettling, not safe, to be honest. And so I needed adults to like me so that they would take care of me. So whatever that looked like for whatever those adults that I was around, then that's what I would do. And I got, some rewards for that. I got, reader of the month. I was like, oh, doing good in school gets you approval, and people like that, so I'm going to do more of that. And it was just a source of drug for me. It filled the empty space inside of me to get approval. And so, I used that drug for a long time, approval seeking. I ended up living in foster care, and I always say, don't feel sorry for me. It was great. That was a way better situation than what I came from. And so, also thank you to any of you that have taken children into your life that were not your biological children. We appreciate you. But those people were great, and they were very old, though. So, when I went to elementary school, it'd be like, why are those old people bringing you to the dance? I mean, they were like significant, like, no offense if anybody's 80 in here, but they were like 80, and I'm like 8. So it couldn't be, so I called them Mama and Papa, and I would make up all these fabulous stories about, like, my mom's in the CIA, and, she's like, she's undercover, and, any way that I could try to, like, normalize this weird thing that I'm, like, living with these old people, and they're not really related to me, and but they were great people, and they really tried to spend the 7 years that I was with them undoing what had happened in the 7 years before I got there, and they did a pretty good job of that. They kind of made religion weird for me, but that's a story for another day. But they took care of me, and so approval was a drug for me. My using was very manageable because I was afraid. All the examples that I had in my life, in my family, were people were like, when you did that, you were nuts. You were like jumping out of moving cars, and you were setting things on fire. You were going to jail. I mean, you were like doing terrible things in the grocery store, like taking steaks and like putting them in your jacket. I mean, there was lots of examples why that was not a good idea. And so I had at least enough logical sense at that point to be very cautious about it. And, at some point, my papa, who was raising me, just dropped dead one night. And it was super traumatic for me because it was like I probably had been living there maybe like 5 years, but I was well into comfortable there. Like, I was safe. Those people took care of me. In fact, I turned into a little shit, to be honest. Like, I was sassy. I done forgot where I came from. I mean, sometimes I go, like, just be on some random people's couch in some guy's t-shirt at 6 years old, because my parents were too shit-faced to go home. And now we live here. I don't know. And I'd forgotten that, and I just became a normal kid, and so my papa died, and I remember going to bed that night after we left. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We lived right outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and coming home with my mama and asking her if I could sleep in the bed with her, and then I was laying there in the bed, and I was like, are the doors locked? Did we lock the doors, And my papa, I mean, I'm 5'4" now. He probably was 5'1". I don't even know what. I felt like he was just this big man that was protecting me, because he had a gun, and he wasn't there anymore, And suddenly I was like, "Oh, is the door? Are we okay?" We live out here in the country on the river. Like, all of a sudden, I became acutely aware of how vulnerable that we were, and that feeling did not ever leave until I got clean. It stayed like this pit in my stomach all the time. And so, as little teenage shits do, I was, got sassier and sassier. And finally my mama was like, you know what? Maybe you should just go live with your mom, which was a terrible plan. And so I went to live with my mom because my mama was also very, kind of strict, She knew that I was, moving in with a dude. At 14, she would have been like, that's not going to be what we're doing. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go live with my mom. And I ended up moving in with with the girlfriend of my future ex-husband. So, did that, kept going to school, even though I was sort of a little bit homeless, kind of. But, I knew school was important. That was a thing that would get me approval. I couldn't stop doing that. In fact, I get this weird thing like, look at you with all this shit life you've gone through and you're still in school. I was like, yeah, look at me. That's right. I'm still, I'm making it. I'm going to, give me some food stamps or something, but I'm here. And so anyway, again, using was very manageable because now I had like a connection to different drugs, but they were like dosed out to me, right? I didn't really have any connections. I certainly couldn't buy anything. I didn't have any money. And so it was like, yeah, using was still manageable, right? Because it was not of my volition. Like I couldn't do as much as I wanted to. And so shortly thereafter, I know you're shocked, I got pregnant. I don't even know how that happened. But, so, I found myself at 17 with a newborn, with a 5-year-old stepson, graduating high school in the same month that I started college. Mistakes were made. I'll say that. So, lucky for me, Ed was talking about like having doors open for us in our life before and during recovery. It's like, I don't know why that happens, but, sometimes it's like, you're not going to be willing to walk through the door. And I had this mentor in high school who was, she was a nurse, and it was a allied health program. I don't know if they do that anymore. I don't think they do. But in this program, in the last 2 years of high school, they would take you to all these healthcare careers, and you could see what people literally did in that job to see if you might want to invest your time and go to school for it. And when she found out I was pregnant, I was like, I'm just going to stay home and take care of the baby for like a year. And she's like, you're not. You need to not do that. You need to keep going to school. If you take a year off with this baby, you're never going to go back. And I was like, well, you don't know me. But luckily, there was some logic in my head. It was like, she's probably right. You need to do that. And she helped me do all the things, I didn't understand about FAFSA and, I didn't even know how college worked. I was like standing up at the registration, like, I want to take these classes. She's like, you can't take 24 hours in one semester. I'm like, well, why you list it like that then? What do you mean? What do you mean it's going to take 4 years? This is a community college, and so just like ignorant of how life really worked. And so I was so grateful to have her help me do that. So anyway, again, using super manageable because I'm on like the program. Like I got to this is not a good situation that I'm in. I got to get through this school. I got to be able to make money so I can take care of myself, take care of this kid. Because the truth is, up to this point, nobody in this world really had showed me that I could depend on them. The people who were supposed to take care of me didn't do a good job of it. The other people who were supposed to take care of me just dropped dead without my permission. And like, if I wasn't able to take care of myself, nobody else was going to do it. And that doesn't lend itself to vulnerability, to be honest, right? And so it's too self-sufficient, unable to be vulnerable with people, doesn't make for good relationships, really, not honest relationships. And so anyway, I when I first got clean, Fog Lifters was my home group, and I started going there in Jackson, Mississippi, the second time I got clean. And people would be like, making small talk, like, what do you do? And I'm like, I work at the hospital. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what do you do? I was like, well, I work on an orthopedic floor. Like, what do you literally do? Why is it so hard? And I was like really weird about not identifying as a nurse because there were so few things. I'm like, who are you, Nikki? Who are you at 21 years old? I don't know your mom. Like, is that something that you are? Because I was not really good at that. I was a person, I was a wife, and I was really terrible at that, to be honest. But I had this identification as a nurse. When I became a nurse, like, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm meant to do. I'm really good at taking care of people to my own detriment. That's a pattern for me, right? And now you're going to pay me to do something I like to do anyway, and I'm really good at it, and I get a lot of approval. You want to get some approval, be a good nurse, save somebody's life. It's very much a drug. And so when I got to recovery, I realized, first of all, I might be giving that career away. Like, I don't even know if I can keep doing that career where they say you keep going to the barbershop, you gotta get a haircut, right? It was like, shit, that's where I got drugs from. Can I even do that anymore? And so I had to disentangle my identity with that job because I wasn't even sure I deserved to do it anymore. So anyways, it took like 20 years, but now I'm like, yeah, I'm a nurse, that's what it was. And talking about the identification, was like, I was not the person that stands before you today when I got here. I was a gray person who only fit in scrubs, right? Who only could make it the 10 steps from the bedroom to the kitchen to get something to eat, to get in the car, to drive to work, to get the drugs, to drive back home, not really home, to Popeyes, to go in the bathroom to use, to drive another mile, hopefully not killing anybody, to get in my bed and rinse and repeat. My using was alone. It was sad, and it was fast. So I am grateful, for that. My mom's drug of choice was alcohol, and it was poison. It's a slow poison, right? My poison took me fast, hard and fast to the ground. And so, I'm a nurse now, and I've, still using very manageably, right? And then one day I'm at work, and I took care of patients after they had heart surgery. And this was a long time ago. Like, this was before the opioid crisis. I was on the cusp of the opioid crisis. I'm very proud of that. Like, these days, people get arrested at their job for what I did. Right? Let that sink in. And I had the opportunity to go to treatment not once, but twice. I wasn't sure if this program was for me. But, so I'm at work, and things are still real manageable, but I'm really sad. Like, my mama's gone. She died too. So now it's for sure there's nobody. Nobody in this world's taking care of me. I got all this pressure. I'm probably 20 years old now. I've been a nurse a year and a half already, and I got these 2 little kids that are dependent on me, and there's nobody in the world. And I was at work, and I was like, you know what? It's funny because, like, if you have medicine and you're going to throw some of it away because it's too much medicine for the patient, it's literally called a waste. And I was like, this is such a waste. To throw this medicine away. What if I get an abscessed tooth in the middle of the night? We're just going to throw it away. I'm going to take it home, and I'm just going to have it just in case. I'm just going to, what if I, fell out of the bed and broke my arm? And I should just have it there. And so I remember bringing it home. I just got rid of this dresser not that long ago. The dresser's about as tall as I am. Pulled the top dresser open, put the medicine. It was still medicine then. Shut the drawer. The next night I was like, man, if I could just get some sleep. If I could just get some sleep, I know what that medicine does. I give it all the time. I'm really comfortable with it. If I could just get one night of sleep, like this raging, repetitive separation with this man that I'm attached to because of these kids would be better. And I wouldn't be as sad. I wouldn't feel as alone if I could just get some sleep. And so I took that medicine. And man, I said, we say take our will in our life. I said, take everything. You want these kids? You want this career? You want this apartment? Like, you want my soul? You want everything? Anything you can take from me, take it, because this is what I need. And I was chasing the dragon from that moment on, and did all the things that we do, and finally got in some trouble. And I had the opportunity to go to treatment. It was like, hey, I walk into the office. And there's about a pile of stuff like this high, papers. This is a long time ago in the 90s, right? And I'm like, look, I think I know what they're doing. I think I know what's about to happen. And she's like, look, we know, we've audited the machine. We know what you're up to. And, I'm going to give you a chance to be honest and ask for some help, or I'm going to call the Harrison County Sheriff's Department on you. And I was like, I need to think about it. Because part of me was so fearful because I don't trust anybody at this point. I don't trust anybody. I'm like, she's just saying that. She just wants me to admit it so she can call the Sheriff's Department anyway. Like, what's this trap? So then I'm like, there ain't no windows in here. Oh, what's in the thing? And so finally, she comes back in there. I'm like, okay, I guess I have a problem. So I get some help, go through rehab. Very grateful that I did not go to jail for that. I should have. I deserved it. That's what happens today. Got done with that, left that treatment center, and there was not a cell in my body that was like, this was good. Let's go try this again a different way. I was like, I'll never use again. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, blah, 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 blah. I went right back to the same job. Couldn't get medicine anymore. It's crazy how they do that. But I could do everything else. And I didn't really lose a lot of esteem about it. I was pretty embarrassed about it, but it's like people still loved me. They were kind of shocked. Like they knew something was terribly wrong with me, but they didn't think it was that. You know, so there was a lot of that, like, holy shit, you know. I decided that my mom should live with me because I was like on fire for being clean, and she could be too. And so I was like, this is a good idea. There's a saying, babies changing babies' diapers get shit everywhere. And so I was like, I don't know anything, and you're terrible. Come live with me, and we'll figure this out together. And of course, she wasn't interested in getting clean, and there would be, alcohol in the fridge all the time. And I am from South Louisiana, and you can't actually eat seafood without beer. So I was like, I think that was a loophole. They didn't really cover that in treatment, so I'm going to have some beer. And then, so it's like exactly what the literature says. It's just like off to the races immediately. And it was funny because some time had passed, right? So it was like January of 2001, I went to treatment for the first time. That was like 42 days. So it must have been sometime in that summer. But, it had been like 5 or 6 months since I used my drug of choice. So I was like, I remember being so excited. Like, sitting around with my paraphernalia, like, this is going to be so good. And it wasn't. But it was too late because it was the door was flung open again. But I won't forget that it was never as good as it was the first time. And even with a period of abstinence, like it just was not the same. And so this time I was like very, very proud of myself because I'm relatively smart and in some ways. And so I was like drug testing my patients. And I would like, okay, I gave him this medicine at 2. I'm going to send some urine down at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and let's see if it's still in there. Right? And so I began to keep a table of like how long did it take to clear. Now it's not great science because he was a lot bigger than me and all that kind of stuff. But I did all this stuff, and then I would like, okay, how long and this and that, and then I'd like know the clearance on this amount by this much, and it was a lot harder to get now because my keys were gone. So now I'm like digging in sharps containers for stuff, right? And new levels of degradation, right? And so doing all that, and the wildest part about it, it kind of tickles me. I was like, the first time I got out of rehab, they're like, you need to go to a meeting every day. And so I tried to do it, but I was like, I got a lot of laundry to do and stuff too. These kids need me, and I'm like, you got to drive to the place. That's 20 minutes. You got to be there an hour. Then you got to like smoke a cigarette. I mean, this is like 2 hours of my day. I don't have time for that. But when I looked at that relapse and the amount of time and energy that I found to work and do my job and also find ways and means to keep using, it's laughable. And I don't know if anybody else has that experience, but I often hear people like, this is a recovery program to get up to. I'm like, please, let's really talk about how much time using to it. But anyway, I had the opportunity to go back to rehab. Went. I was super excited this time. I was living in this apartment. My mom was still there, so I was like, hey, Mom, sorry, I got to go back to rehab. You're going to have to find somewhere to live. And my using had become so unmanageable that, when I moved in this apartment, it was a split from my husband was not going to live there. I was living there, so I bought like a nice dining room table from like probably Kmart, but it was nice. And bought that, and then I bought some like, I don't know from where, Kirkland's or whatever, and I got these pictures and stuff, and they all still had the damn cardboard corners on them, because I didn't have the energy to take the curtains out of the package and hang them up. I just had the energy to buy it and put it against the window. So then when it was time to go to rehab, all I'd do is flick off the ramen noodles. We were just sitting around that box, eating off the box. So I was like, I got a lot of money to pay this deposit for rehab because I ain't put any of this shit up. So I got to take all this stuff back to the store, and there's my deposit for rehab. And never hope I forget that that's how I was living. Went to rehab. Was like, oh, I can't wait to hear whatever the thing was that I missed the first time. Surely there was some tidbit in there because, I'm going to pay better attention this time. I'm going to eat less yeast rolls. I'm going to be less sleepy. And I'm going to figure out what I missed. And I didn't hear a damn thing different the second time. In fact, the second time I was there 9 months between secondary and all that. And not a damn thing different. Go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps, don't use. I was like, oh, why didn't I just do that the first time? But yet here we are. So, that all happened, and I've been clean. In March, I have been clean half my life at this point. And so, when you've been clean, well, Ronnie talked about it today. Life is suffering, and a lot, like, the worst things that have ever happened to me have happened to me clean, because I've been clean a long time. Not because, like, oh, I got clean, now everything's shit. Like, no, that's what life is, and it keeps happening. And so when I got clean the second time, I was going to meetings, and I'm like joining a homegirl. I'm doing all the things. I got this woman. She's got like 3 years clean. I thought she was a goddess. I'm like, how do you get 3 years clean? This is amazing, And I asked her to be my sponsor, and she said yes, and like started working steps with me. And that was a big deal, because now I'm like working steps with somebody just to work steps. Like, they're not my counselor. They're not trying to graduate me. She didn't have anything to really gain from it. It wasn't like she's going to get like a NA patch for, doing some more steps with this girl. It was really because, like, it was helping her stay clean, and like she cared about me and spent the time with me, and it's, super, super meaningful for me, and made me really, grateful for sponsorship in the steps. And so was doing that, and just came in with a lot of wreckage. It's like kind of like I felt like I woke up and I had like a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. It's like, oh God, how'd this happen? And I'm like 23. So I have a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. I'm 23. I got this marriage with this guy. I don't know how to get out of it. It's not good. I had to relocate. The board of nursing was like, well, you can't live on the Mississippi Gulf Coast anymore, because you clearly not staying clean down there. I'm like, you can't tell me where to live. And they're like, well, you're right, but we can tell you where you're going to work. So if you want to work, you're going to move. And I was like, oh my God. But, I found some acceptance. And I moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and just, dove headlong into this thing. And I'll tell you, at that point, I went to meetings out of fear. I went to meetings, I got my sheet signed. I have 1 million sheets signed, right? And I was scared. I was scared to continue to use. I was scared to lose, a career that really meant a lot to me, and like just fear driven. That's really a lot of my recovery. I mean, probably at least the first 5 years was really just, how do I stay out of trouble? How do, and to be honest, when I first got there, I was really hoping that I was just going to learn how to use Managely, because I still was like, you can't, there's no loopholes, there's nothing, and you got to start like letting me go hang out and go bowling, or talk after a meeting, or put together a thing, or be responsible for something. Getting coffee. I'm going to give you money to get coffee. You're actually going to get the coffee, and you're going to bring it back here. Like, that's your whole job. I'm like, are you proud of me? I was on sale too, and it's crazy, because like that kind of service, is exactly what I needed. Like, I needed somebody to give me some responsibility that I could carry out, to show that I had a reason to come. Like, I need to go back because I got to bring this coffee. They need coffee. Y'all needed a lot of coffee. And it's just super powerful time for me, and I'm super grateful for it. And so anyway, bringing a lot of wreckage, need to get divorced. I need to file bankruptcy. I need to do those in a certain order. And it was shameful. It was a shameful time for me to get all these state and federal documents to say what a loser I was. Like, here's your bankruptcy papers, here's your divorce papers. But kind of moving forward through that, and I ended up. Somebody was talking about earlier, like organizing the fellowship, and I definitely thought that was my job to organize the fellowship. I had a nickname in Jackson. I'm not going to tell you what it was.
Come on. Oh, come on.
It was the Grand V. And, you wouldn't say the V part in church. I'll just say that. And so, but it's funny, but it's like, that's not even who I want to be today. Like, ain't nobody in North Carolina is like, this bitch trying to run everything. Hell no, and my bad. The people who are here from Mississippi didn't get to see that side of me, so thank goodness. But, I felt so passionate about this program, like, and I wanted it to go well, and my husband says I treat the world like they're all a bunch of, what do you say? About children? What kind of children? Incapable children. Like, I treat the entire world like a bunch of incapable children, which is not actually true. So my bad. But, I use a lot of those, like, powers for good. I made my area better. helped on convention committees and ended up being a convention chair one time. And I was like, oh my God, if you can get 200 addicts to do what you want them to do, you can kind of do anything, you know? and that carried over to my professional life because I was like, oh, well, maybe, you know, these leadership skills are transferable. And, you know, maybe I'm worthy to do these leadership things at work. And what might this be like? And just kind of stepping into that. And Ed was talking about, you know, when we first met, we didn't even like each other. So I had a couple years clean. I got clean in 2002. And he got clean in like late 2004. We were two very different people. He would like come to meetings with no shoes, y'all. It was not the man that stands before you. Okay. He had long hair, no shoes. He would like lay on the floor of the meeting. I was like, oh my God, this hippy dippy lunatic. But I did care about him. And the crazy part is I don't even remember calling him, y'all. But that's what happens when you come here. You are such a big part of other people's lives. It sort of is like you don't even realize what a big deal you made for them by doing the slightest little thing, right? And so anyway, didn't like him. I dated a couple people before him. None of that was good. It was a bunch of babies changing babies' diapers. It was terrible. Not going to get any of that. But what I did do when I got here is filed for bankruptcy. And so it was like, you know, this court document of failure. And then I guess in 2004, maybe? I don't know. Somewhere in there I got to get my credit together enough that I could apply for a first-time home buyer's, you know, loan and get a house. And I would just do what my sponsors should just share about. Like, you know, I don't know how to get a house. Like, I don't know how to, what do you do for a mortgage? What does this mean? And not that I was like, can anybody give me financial advice? No. But like, you know, getting people to like, tell me, what was your experience? Like, how do you pay for a house? How's that even a thing? And then when I got it, I was like, God, what a piece of shit this is. And so, you know, people in the program came and took out the shag carpet and helped me tear down the half brick wall that had a big planter. It was a hideous little house. And take down all the paneling and take down the wallpaper and just taught me to do things in that house that I didn't know how to do. And it's so reflective of this program because you guys taught me so many life skills that really didn't have anything to do with steps per se, right? But just how to be a mom, how to eat better, how to do your taxes. I mean, you know, it's like, oh God, I'm getting this letter. What's this supposed to mean? And I'm still grateful. I remember those days of like people coming over and nobody sent me a bill. I mean, they just did it. Like they just like a bunch of little Amish people in there just tearing stuff and taking it off to the dump. I mean, it was like magic. It was magic, guys. And I helped, but you know, I'm not very good at it. So a lot of times it's like, move over there. Let me do this crown. I'm like, but I can do this. No, I cannot. But that house was like a physical manifestation of like the work that I had done. You know, it's not all about property and prestige, but it was like, this is a home. This is my home that I'm about to provide for these kids. And I'm about to paint these rooms, whatever color these damn kids want. You know, and they're going to decorate these rooms and we're going to live here. And we're not going to move around all the time. And they're not going to live like I lived. And, you know, one of them picked a blue color, it was beautiful, and the other one picked ninja red. And if you've ever tried to put red on a white wall, buckle up. You're just going to be there for like 6 years painting the room. But you know what? That kid wanted ninja red, and ninja red, by God, he was going to get. And, you know, just so grateful for all that. Just such good memories. And so anyway, got the house together, went to volleyball, you know, kept picking losers is the bottom line. And finally, I was like, oh my God, this guy doesn't even know how to run the damn dishwasher over here. He ain't paying no bills. I'm like, it's just the worst codependent you've ever met. And so sick of this guy, I'm ready to murder him. And so I'm like, you got to go. So, of course, he stayed another 6 months because he didn't have anywhere to go. I'm like, well, sleep on the couch. Oh, my God. And, you know, that's when Ed and I started being interested in each other. And who knew that was going to work out? Because there's no two people really. I mean, he started wearing shoes at that point, or I would not have entertained the idea. But not a whole lot else. It was like a diamond in the rough. We were both like diamonds in the rough, right? And he saw something in me that I didn't see, and then I saw something in him that he didn't necessarily see. And we've spent the last 17 years like growing apart and growing back together, growing apart and growing back together, growing apart and growing back together. And I'm super grateful. So did all that, and we, like my house is kind of put together. He starts living there, and then I was like, asked me to marry him. I was like, oh God, this is getting pretty serious, because I was about to ask you, and thank God, it might be kind of embarrassing, but I was going to do it. And I was like, I should do it in a meeting. How ridiculous would that be? But anyway, he asked me, luckily, so we didn't have to get weird with it. But then he asked me, and I was like, yes, so excited to say yes to that. And he was like, well, will you change your name? I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be, no offense, because this happens all the time, but I'm like, I don't want to have a different last name for my damn kids, it's so trashy, oh my God, I'm like fighting to not be the trashy girl that got here, now you make me have different names. Yes, I will do that. And then he said, we have a baby. And I was like, well, you're pushing it now. I'm not, at this point, my middle now, but my youngest son was 13, and I was like, he's already, you need to get fixed cereal. He can like walk to school if he wants to. I start all over. And I said yes, and I'm super grateful. And so through planning that wedding, like you want to feel some kind of way about your family, start figuring out a wedding. It's like, okay, well, traditionally somebody's got walking down the aisle. Oh, check. No, I don't have that. There's no mom to throw a shower for me. It's like this crushing, dysfunctional family sort of algorithm that you get to look at when you're trying to plan a wedding. I was like, I don't like this. Let's just like, I don't even want a big wedding. But really, I didn't want to deal with all the feelings I was going to have about all the gaps in that, And Ed said, you need to ask Jerry to walk you down the aisle. And I had a really good relationship with Jerry up to that point. Jerry, for you guys that don't know him, he would have been clean 42 years this year, I think. And he's just this big mountain of a man who wore purple and gold all the time. So if you ever saw a giant guy with purple and gold in any of your recovery life, that was Jerry. And, he just was like just a gentle giant, and he was so like important to me because I would be like tattling Jerry. I'd be like, Jerry, I was in the area and they did this and this and this. And like, I'm basically like, you're an old timer. Tell me what's to do with this. And he's like, yeah, well, that's okay. Like, that is not what I want you to say. Give me some ammunition here. I think what Ronnie was reading today and Out of the Living Clean was talking about how we can like weaponize the program a little bit. I'll do that. Like, I'm powerless. I can't do that. I can't do this any better because I am powerless over everything. And it's like, no, B, that is not what that means. You don't get to like not accept responsibilities because you're powerless. And so, Jerry was changing me and inviting us to go do things out of town. He might have been the connection to, well, no, probably Ronnie was up here, but he would come to this. He was like all about some asphalt recovery, what's going on, and just an amazing story. And he had been in Vietnam, and he had gotten affected by Agent Orange, so he couldn't have children. And so, I was like, Jerry doesn't have kids. I ain't got a dad. Like, yeah, I should ask Jerry to do this. And it was like so beautiful to give him that opportunity. And for me too, for him to walk me down, I was beautiful, calm. I knew he was going to show up, like unlike any of the rest of my people. Who knows if they did show up, what kind of shape are they going to be in? He walked me down the aisle, and it was beautiful. And then when we got pregnant with Bella very shortly after that, we took him out to P.F. Chang's and like got to give him the ultrasound. It was like such an experience I never had with my other kids. When I had those kids, everybody was like, what the hell are you doing? Why did you do that? Nobody was happy for me. And just to have, like, for me to have that experience of like him having a grandbaby, and me being able to tell a parent and them being happy for me, it was a big deal. And, I wish he was sending me messages to damn doctors today. I'd be like, Jesus, Jerry, you can do the same. The typing that you sent to me, you could have sent it to the doctor. Now I got to log into your my chart and send shit for you. I wish he was bothering me with that today. I miss him so much. So anyway, did all that, all the things. Lots of recovery, lots of lives changed. And Ronnie and his Ronnie moved to Jackson. How many ex-wives would we talk about in one room? Ronnie moves to Jackson. We met Ronnie. You know, he had about 12 to 14 years more clean time than me. So of course I thought he was like, you know, Moses over there or something. I didn't tell him that, but I was like, you know, very respectable recovery, and you know, it was a brief time that they were in Jackson, and we loved them, spent a lot of time with them, and then they moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and so we were like, we should stalk them to Charlotte, North Carolina. Not really. What really happened was Ed was like, I think we should move to North Carolina, and I was like, you have lost your ever-loving mind. Like my older sons are here. They were both, one of them had already moved out of the house, the other one was very close to moving out of the house, and he was like, you know, at some point they might move away, and like we have spent our whole life here, and Bella's going to spend her life here, and I was like, what a big leap of faith that was. So we did. We stalked them right into North Carolina, which is kind of weird to say, but that's what happened. And, you know, just like started a new page in my recovery, because now I'm like in a place that I'm not an old timer. Yeah, hell, I wasn't an old timer when I moved there. I only had 14 years, but in Jackson, Mississippi, that was in the meeting and area, people were like, what do we do, Nikki? Gee, this is a lot of pressure. I don't know. Where's Neil at, you know? So when I moved to North Carolina, I was like, I didn't have to be in charge of anybody's baby showers no more. You know, I wasn't planning bridal showers for people. Nobody was looking at me to make big decisions in the area. Like, it was like a lot of pressure removed, and that was so good, and it felt like such a relief. And then it was like very lonely, because I was like, what is my job here? What am I even supposed to do? Like, does anybody really even care if I only go to one meeting a week? Not really. And I realized that I like went there with a sort of built-in network, and then it fell apart. You know, it just fell apart. And I probably had been there several years before I like got my head out of my ass enough to put the work in to like be a newcomer again. Guess what? When you're not new and you show up to a meeting, people are like, oh, welcome. And then they're on to the newcomer, as probably it should be. But like, I needed some attention too, you know, and it's like, feels super weird to be like, you be my friend. Do you like to do stuff outside? I like to do stuff outside. Can we do stuff outside together? Horrible. You know, somebody earlier was talking about cliques, and it's like, you know, that's human nature. So I'm not even like upset about that, but it's very hard to infiltrate pre-established groups. Like not against them, but just like, it's just really hard. And so I put in a bunch of work and effort in that, and things were going well. And then about, you know, 5 years ago, I realized that like the hardest, I woke up one day, and I'm not even gonna say I had a midlife crisis, but I kind of did, because I was like 40, and like I was coming into I don't know what the hell I was doing, but I had to finally admit to myself that I was a very dishonest person, right? Like, you know, I was very nice to, I would be more rigorously honest with everybody in my life, except for the people who lived in my house. In my house, I'd be like, still, what do you want to do? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Oh, what do you like? Yeah, let's do that. And like acting on people pleasing and being dishonest. I mean, people pleasing sounds all fun and nice, but it's lying, you know, and it's betrayal, you know. So I just had been doing this for so long. I finally realized that I'm like, okay, I'm done doing that. This is who I am, and you know, and you can take it or leave it, and I'm done being walked all over, you know. And it's like brutalized my marriage, you know, because it's like, that's not what he signed up for. You know, he didn't tell me to not be myself. Like, I decided I could not be myself. I decided I had to be somebody different to be accepted. And so it's just like this push-pull of like trying to reconcile somebody who's very disagreeable with somebody who's very agreeable, right? And we almost didn't survive that. You know, it was a lot of betrayal on both sides with honesty, and I'm grateful that we came out on the other side better than we went into that dark tunnel. But it was not without great effort, and it's been interesting because out of that, you know, I've had to like figure out, you know, what is my purpose? What am I even doing here? Because this is the thing, I have unlimited amount of love. There is no limit to the amount of love, the amount of people that I can love. There is a limit to the time that I have. And you know, I've decided that I've come to the realization really that I cannot put more effort into relationships than you're willing to match. And that is really hard for me because never want to feel like I'm leaving someone who could be moved along, right? And it's like, but if they're not willing to put some steps into moving along, I have to withdraw my effort and I have to put it where people are willing. And that has been really hard because, you know, I had to really reevaluate a lot of friendships and realize that, like, I deserve better. You know, that they don't bring the effort to this relationship that I'm bringing to it. And that was hard because it was all in the middle of trying to establish these relationships out in North Carolina with women, and like realizing I was accepting like substandard friendships, really, and kind of like shedding them and being lonely again. It's like, when is this gonna stop? I'm done with this. You know, I'm ready to stop doing this. And it's not. It's not, because, you know, I think if I listen to myself on the speaker, you know, from when I had 5 years clean, when I had 10 years clean, when I had 15 years clean, like, I'm not even the same person. And so I would expect that I won't be the same person the next time I listen to myself. And I hope that I'm not, because, you know, I have something that Ronnie said this today from Living Clean too, was talking about we're grateful for the events that brought us to this moment. You know, I am grateful. I'm grateful. I could like immaturely wish it had been different, but I would not be who I am today if all those things had not happened in the very order that they happened to make me who I am today. I was laughing too, because the addict ability to focus on one thing and do it until it gets done, that is me. I can turn up the productivity. I will get so much stuff done, and it's so good, and it's good for you, and it's good for my family. And guess what? I don't have to think about my bullshit. Mm-hmm. I can just keep pretending like this people pleasing is doing okay, because look how good we're doing, and we're finishing all this stuff, and everything's great, and I'll just be busy, just be super busy, and you don't have to feel a fucking feeling. And that was something I had to like reconcile too, and all that destruction that I caused. You know, it's like, that's something I got a lot of approval for, unfortunately. You know, getting a lot of stuff done. People ask you to do a lot of stuff, you get a lot of stuff done. And so, you know, that was hard. But I am about to wrap it up. So, you know, I was Jerry's favorite person. And, you know, he was definitely top 5 for me too. Well, I mean, I got a lot of people, you know, and, you know, I was Jerry's power of attorney. When Jerry went to the hospital, when the ambulance came and got him and he wouldn't wake up, they called me. I got to sit in his bedside in the ICU. I got to stay there all night, you know, for 3 nights while we tried to decide what to do. I got to wash his face. I didn't get to hear his last words, but it didn't matter, because I knew that I have on tape, because of this program, this is Nikki, and she's my favorite person. And it was so cool, because, like, what a legacy to build, to have a waiting room in the ICU at Our Lady of the Lake full of addicts. Like, want to know when can they come back? Can we have a meeting in there? How's Jerry doing? You know, just constantly. This is so beautiful. And we didn't even have a funeral for Jerry. We had a final farewell. And if you knew Jerry, that's exactly what Jerry deserved. And you know, I just miss him so much. And he's just like the skin on this program for me, right? This program brought me back everything that I didn't even lose, that I just never even had to begin with, is what I got from this program. I'm forever grateful. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.